Here is a vCloud director. I'm in an org context, and this is actually running in vCloud Air today. And this is something that will be exposed through our vCloud director service provider offering in the near future as well. And this is something that I would encourage you to try out in the hands-on lab. I believe hands-on lab 1682 actually lets you take a deeper dive into this if you want to play with it firsthand. So the first thing I wanted to highlight is there's a new option here. Now I've already upgraded my edge, but unlike the traditional edge upgrade that's there in vCloud Director, you'll see that there's an option to convert to advanced networking. And what this really lets you do is upgrade to the NSX version of the edge rather than the VCNS version. So Ray alluded to earlier that, in the VCNS 5.5 version, or sorry, VCD 5.5 versions that are there, if you upgrade your edge to an NSX edge, vCloud Director really doesn't like it. It says, well, I can't manage this edge, and things go awry. So what converting to advanced networking lets you do is it lets you actually formally upgrade your edge to an NSX edge that's still managed, and it's really actually delegating the management to the NSX manager. And when I click on Edge Gateway Services here, you'll see that the UIs, the APIs, et cetera, and I'm not going to spend too much time on the APIs here, but they are actually exposing the features and functionalities very similar to what you would see in NSX. Now, while this is actually loading up, I'm actually going to switch over and show you where the distributed firewall, some of those micro-segmentation capabilities are similarly exposed, and you'll see how this all ties together. Now, the distributed firewall is a VNIC level firewall. It's a fully stateful VNIC level firewall, and it really means that it's aligning to where your compute resources are running. So you can provide firewalling services, but they need to align to where your physical hosts are. Now, in the VCD world, that really is the virtual data center. That's where your compute that you're allocating for a given tenant is running. So on the VDC, if you right-click on the VDC, you see there's a new option for managing firewall. And when you manage firewall, it's actually showing you a section from the distributed firewall that NSX is powering to the tenant. And it's doing it in a way that's in a multi-tenant safe fashion. So this user, even though it's a single flat firewall table, is creating rules and objects only for objects that they're allocated to, be it VMs, network, VDCs, et cetera. So from a edge gateway services perspective, you see that the UIs here, and I just wanted to give the UI a second to load, from a firewalling perspective really offers that rich interface like the checkpoint, like the ASA, like NSX offers on-premise to your end tenant or your end customer, unlike the previous vCloud Director screen where you had to punch IP sets or MAC sets, which was quite arduous from an overhead perspective, and it was complex for your end users. This lets you create those object-based rules, be it with networks, be it with VMs, and gives you the nice pickers and UIs that let you specify your rules like a policy language. And again, this is doing this on the edge gateway. It's also offering services such as routing protocols, load balancers, and these are all offered in a self-service fashion that can be delegated to your org admin, to your network admin, leveraging the roles that are there in VCD. Or you can actually tie it to custom-defined roles if you're going to specify custom rights and roles mappings through your identity provider hooking into VCD. So there's some options there. I won't drill into those details, but all of these capabilities can tie into any of those roles and rights. So as you see here, this is really very similar to the NSX UIs. If you played with the NSX UIs, you'll see there's a lot of similarities here. Now, there are some things that are crimped out for security purposes, right? For example, when you're defining a routing protocol, especially as a service provider, you're going to want to make sure that they're doing this with passwords. You're not going to be breaching kind of this multi-tenant barriers, et cetera. So there's a very lightweight shim on top of NSX that's providing this multi-tenant aspects. But in general, this is exposing one-for-one features from NSX. And if you upgraded your NSX manager, let's say there's NSX 6.2 that came out, the next greatest release, there is no change required in vCloud Director. This is actually a pass-through view with the light multi-tenant shim on top of NSX. So it's really decoupling this from a lifecycle management perspective, so you don't need to have these massive change windows and kind of go through the operational nightmare of upgrading every component in your cloud as you manage it. Now I'm going to switch over back to the distributed firewall and show you that this is actually exposing some of these capabilities in much the same way that NSX is displaying. Now, this is in vCloud Air production, so I don't have access to the underlying vCenter here as a tenant. But if you look on the underlying vCenter, you actually would see a section for this tenant, for this organization VDC, allocated out of the distributed firewall UI, and you would be able to see from a provider perspective all of the firewall rules. Granted, they're not going to be overlapping because there's a restriction from a multi-tenancy perspective of who can access what. That said, you can still write your own provider rules. You can have your guardrails, your top section, your bottom section that enables that overall kind of use case in totality. So what I'm going to actually jump through here in the last few minutes of the presentation is the layer 2 extension. And I'm actually going to show you a recorded demo since I don't have an environment that's accessible locally from our laptop here that's going to show you how you can actually leverage some of those L2 VPN capabilities that Ray was referring to earlier. So now this is actually going to be via the Hybrid Cloud Manager, and this was something that was presented in the day one keynote. And what this really lets you do is, through seamless integration, leveraging that standalone edge that NSX provides, allows your tenants to have, through their vSphere web client, direct ability to stretch a layer 2 network without actually having to enter complex parameters. So all you do is go to your DB port group, right-click on it, say extend to, in this case, vCloud Air, perhaps to your cloud of choice as it's deployed, specify some network parameters for that port group, right? So the gateway, the net mask, so that when it's extended into vCloud Director on the destination side, the client-server exchange is all taken care of. The tenants who may not know all these complex VPN settings don't need to punch those in. It's actually taken care of under the covers. And actually, this is from the hands-on lab, so you can actually try this out. You see I'm student 220 in this recording. And when you jump into vCloud Director, you'll see that it actually shows up as an org VDC network. So when you're actually enabling some migrations or migrating an entire subnet, you know which is your L2 stretched network to vCloud Air, leveraging some of the L2 VPN technologies. You can keep the layer 2 stretch up for as long as you need. Now, it is a layer 2 VPN, so there will be a performance hit from an encryption perspective. So recommendation there is, keep it up for as long as you need it. If you have a stretched application, maybe you're doing migrations over a period of specific change windows. But once you're done migrating or once you're done using the layer 2 VPN, probably separate them again just to make sure you're not shoehorning a lot of traffic back and forth from your cloud to a customer's premise and vice versa.